When I got handed the script, I was like, how would you be able to make a film about Gran Turismo? That makes no sense. I mean, it's like a racing simulator.
Video game movies may be pulling ahead in the eyes of critics, but historically, these adaptations have been known to crash and burn. Gran Turismo takes the road less traveled by adapting the true story of a gamer turned pro racer, whose experience with Sony's racing sim series let him live out his dreams in reality.
I started learning about Jann Mardenborough and about this true story of GT Academy, which was this idea of taking like the top Gran Turismo players in the world and putting them into an academy to learn how to actually drive real cars. And Jann's story is unbelievable because he went from playing Gran Turismo in his parents' house on a console, like a driving console system that he built, to placing third at Le Mans. It was a script that had this very organic merging of a video game backbone with a real life, real world setup and characters that work organically.
You really think you're going to take a kid who plays video games in their bedroom, you're going to strap them to a 200-mile-an-hour rocket? It'll tear him to pieces.
I'm really happy about the approach that they took with this because I think we all know, unfortunately, I mean, it's just a thing. Video game movies don't work.
There have been plenty that have not.
There's a lot that have failed. It's really been the
Oh, we're on like a
that's
set.
my ride.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
yeah.
Part of that reason is because what we love about video games is that we're the player playing them. I mean, I myself love video games. But we're the player playing them. We're controlling the action. We don't necessarily want a director and a team of people to control our point of view, to tell us what the story is within it. We ourselves want to carve that story for ourselves. This is great because what it does is it takes the video game is a part of the movie. I mean, it's about a guy who played video games very intensely and then took that video game experience and put it on the track. It really becomes, to me, like a great sports movie. I mean, like, when I read it, it reminded me a lot of one of my favorite movies of all time, of any genre, but certainly of the sports genre, which is Hoosiers, with Gene Hackman, about, you know, a group of kids from Indiana who there's no way they're gonna ever make the championships. They're the underdog, and of course, this coach who's got problems and issues, and of course they make the championships and they win the championships. That is the same story of this kid who, you know, playing video games and nobody believes in him, nobody thinks he can do this, everybody's against him. And he overcomes these incredible odds and really achieves this incredible thing.
The main thing that I found exciting about the film was just this story of this young mixed race guy, like this young guy that looked like me growing up, who had a dream, made it come true, and that was just something that I had never seen in a film growing up. Yeah, I think it's just a story that needs to be told, that deserves to be told, and Jann is an unbelievably inspiring young man.
I know this track. I've raced it 1,000 times.
Neill Blomkamp's directorial efforts have always pushed the limits of how visual effects can help tell his stories. But to make an adaptation of a racing simulator as true to life as possible, practical stunt driving had to be at the heart of the film.
We have this phenomenal director in Neill Blomkamp, right, who brings his expertise and cinematic skill from like big sci-fi projects into this very grounded story of Jann Mardenborough's dream to become a racing driver through the means of playing this game. So the idea of taking the big world with the simply executed story is grounded in reality and truth, which I love.
I mean, the funny thing about Neill is that his particular brand of CGI, which I think is so special, his particular brand of science fiction movie is so visceral and grounded. If you go back and watch District 9, the way that alien bug moves around and touches things, he had a guy in a suit with these prosthetics moving around, brushing things around, and they painted over that. But even the way they paint it, his CGI has real gravity, real weight, real grit to it. And I think that some of that will be in this movie, but you'll never know what's, you know, CGI, because he really is, even within his fantastical world, he's really interested in stakes. He's really interested in realism.
Yeah, it's definitely production heavy and much more VFX light compared to anything I've done before. But the reason for that is because these cars, like at Le Mans on the Mulsanne Straight, there was a car that hit 400 kilometers an hour. So getting to that place of realism at driving at that speed, you have to, I think, put the actors into an environment that is basically that real. I think visual effects and video walls or green screen or any other way that you may go about doing it, it's not gonna have the same effect on the actor. And the audience isn't gonna feel it the same way. So the approach right from the beginning was about massive amounts of effort put into front-loading the film, into practical photography. And then what that means is that VFX becomes more like invisible visual effects. It becomes like visual effects in the background that bring the place to life that the audience won't really know about. What they'll see in the foreground are actors put through their paces in legitimately high-speed vehicles. Like we did a shot yesterday that we were trying to figure out maybe potentially the fastest ground-based photography with an actor that we could think of.
When you're out here on these tracks, you really feel that visceral quality to this sport, even the smoke and the smell of fuel. And we want the audience to feel that. Neill really wants the audience to feel that. And I think in the hands of a different director, this movie could be kind of a disaster because you could get a real CGI racing thing. But in this, I mean, you really feel that people could die. And we're doing stuff where, there's a lot of very talented stunt people, but you're still racing LMP2s around this track at 200 miles an hour. And that's an unpredictable thing.
Take this car behind me, and on top, you've got like a go-kart seat and a driver who's actually driving. So you can have the boys, like Archie can be in the car, acting, and they can have the cameras everywhere. But the guy is actually driving at speed, and it's crazy.
Neill just keeps on bringing these things to taking things from the game. There's so many things I want to speak of specifically, but I don't want to spoil some of these things because I just know they're going to be so cool when you see them. But the way that he works, his brain is just like unlike anybody else's I've ever known. But also he is, for me, one of the most collaborative directors I've ever worked with. This film has felt like we've been making it kind of hand in hand the entire time. Like, he is so open of receiving ideas and notes, and so we are just constantly ciphering through the game, ciphering through things. Anytime we find something that might be cool in the game, anything as I'm constantly playing the game, anything that I just pick out and I'm like, this is gonna be sick, this is gonna be sick, and we're just putting it in the film.
The thing that really just felt like it synced up perfectly with the movie was FPV photography with high-speed drones. In the last few weeks of photography, we've had four independent drone teams running simultaneously. So if we divide the track up into 4 quadrants, then you have the FPV drones kind of accepting and then relieving a car as it comes through, and then the next team picks it up. Then you can cover the whole track that way. And they'll do 160 kilometers per hour, with it. One of them has a gimbal on them. That's probably my favorite photography, I think, in terms of dynamism, in terms of motion.
To be honest, I'm the funniest guy to choose for this. Because look, I love PlayStation games as much as any, recluse of my generation. Everybody American. But I never played Gran Turismo. Never been interested in the game. Have no interest in racing, GT racing at all. Never been interested. On this movie, I got chills the other day shooting some of the Le Mans stuff because it's like any sport that you love. It's these euphoric highs and lows, and this danger and this risk and this passion for this game, essentially, is so universal.